Colossus is the most advanced lineup optimizer in daily fantasy sports. Lock and exclude players. Adjust player exposure to reduce risk of injury or poor performance. Customize individual projections or upload your own projections. Generate hundreds of optimal lineups in seconds. Name and save the best lineups. Create winning lineups for the top sites like DraftKings and FanDuel for free at dailyfantasycafe.com.
Hello and welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Josh Shepardson at BChad50. And we're talking about tonight's action. There's no Clayton Kershaw on the mound tonight with your guaranteed points. So there are some other guys you're definitely considering that look good. Jacob deGrom, definitely the best pitcher on this slate as far as talent-wise. Has had a couple subpar outings recently and is facing an offense that's really heating up, getting healthy in Washington. $11,800. I think he's still your chalk play for cash games. And, I mean, he certainly should be one of your two pitchers because he's definitely one of the safest guys on the mound. But at the same time, you know, he's not a guy that I think I'm going to have in 100% of my lineups because there is some risk with that offense that's been solid recently. I think you and I both are in agreement, though, that Colin McHugh for $1,000 cheaper at Oakland, huge ballpark, terrible offense right now. I mean, he's just been pitching great ball recently. In fact, 6 straight quality starts, gone at least 6 innings in all those, striking out quite a few batters. And Oakland doesn't strike out a ton, but I mean, you're buying yourself a great floor for cash games with Colin McHugh tonight.
Yeah, in that little 6-game stretch, he's allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in each of those starts, and he struck out a minimum of 5 batters in each of them, too. I mean, he's locked right now, and looking a lot like the guy that we saw last year. I love McHugh. He's my favorite pitcher on the slate. Matchup considered, money line considered, price considered. I mean, everything is working in McHugh's favor. I really like him a lot tonight. I'm with you on deGrom. I think it's also worth mentioning the fact that a win kind of is in jeopardy because he is facing Steven Strasburg. Strasburg's been good since he's come back from the DL, with the exception of his last start that he left hurt early. The fact that he left last start hurt and his lengthy track record of injuries and leaving starts early has me off of him completely tonight. Actually, I think makes the Mets interesting should he have some hiccups tonight if that velocity's not there or if they are cautious and pull him early. I do like the Mets tonight. $10,000. Last time this guy started, we joked about his price on the podcast, and all I did was go out and throw a gem against the Tigers, a complete game. Josh Tomlin
nailed it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't completely understand it. The numbers are actually starting to look more legit with each start. He's not walking anybody. The strikeout rate's a little high considering his swinging strike rate, but he is a small road favorite against the White Sox at last check, and I actually like his odds of getting run support more than the odds makers do at this point. A lot of lefties to throw Samardzija. Samardzija bad against left-handed batters, so I do think he gets some run support tonight. Tomlin makes for an interesting GPP play. I think he's overpriced for cash games usage because he isn't a big favorite. The strikeouts look a little bit fluky, but in GPPs at $10,000 priced around some top arms, I just don't see his ownership being that high. Another name that I'm looking at, speaking of guys who just I don't understand this year, Garrett Richards has a swinging strike rate north of 11%, better than last year, and yet August he had a 23.5% strikeout rate, but that's basically the high water mark on the year for him. Not striking out as many batters as he should be with that big swinging strike rate, but the Dodgers kind of in a funk. Their strikeout rate's up over the last 30 days. They haven't been great in terms of strikeout rate against righties all year. They punished righties, so I think if you're a Dodgers fan, you take that trade-off of some punch-outs for some power and some success. But I think Richards makes for an interesting GPP play because he's due for a big strikeout game. I mean, he struck out 9 2 starts ago, so he has flashed a little bit. And my favorite cheap arm on the night is J.A. Happ. He's been fantastic. I'm going to tip my cap to Ray Siraj again, the pitching coach in Pittsburgh. The guy just is the king of reclamation projects, it seems. He turned around Volquez, turned around Liriano. He has Happ pitching at a high level. I'm buying what Happ's selling at this point. The strikeout rate, like Tomlin, it's a little bit high for what he's getting in terms of swinging strikes, but pounding the strike zone, ground ball rate's up around 45%, which is up from what it's been in recent years. So I like what Happ's doing, and the Reds just are not a very potent offense against left-handed batters. So I think he's a good value play at $7,000. But I know there's some other names that you like, including a really cheap arm tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you on Happ. I mean, $7K, and they definitely let out the leash on him, too. He threw 110 pitches last time out, too. So, you know, and against a much better – well, I won't say much better against lefties, but much better overall offense in St. Louis. So definitely there. And then I think a guy that's interesting for tournaments at $4,600 is Chris Medlin. Kind of burned everybody last time out. Had a big blow up at the beginning of that game, but he did induce 16 ground ball outs in that game, which is what he does. Ground ball outs, strikeouts. He misses quite a few bats too. So certainly not a guy you would ever consider. Well, I won't say ever, but you would be considering your cash games here. But definitely a guy that I'm looking at as an option for your GPPs where you want to fit in some big bats, because, I mean, like I said, this is a guy that's only $4,600, so very, very little risk with him tonight. But, you know, I mean, big-time upside at that price. You're certainly going to, if you could pair him with one of your favorite stacks, maybe one of these top guys, I think he's a viable option down there. But if you play him in your cash games, that's on you. That's not my problem.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that he's finally stretched out 98 pitches in his last start. So you got to like the fact that the Royals let him go. Yeah, he took his lumps, but it's gonna benefit him going forward now that pitch count. He should be able to throw around 100 pitches.
Yeah, and he's only walking 3.5% of batters since coming up this season, or since returning. So that's always good for a guy that you want to be able to pitch deeper in a game. And at that cheap, a guy that, you know, he misses only 9% swing strike rate, but not walking a lot of guys, so that should keep his pitch count down.
Yep.
All right, catcher options. Buster Posey, you're welcome. He gets Godley tonight. He's terrible. Posey seems like he's going through these stretches this year. He was had a slow start, then he got it going, then kind of tailed off for a couple weeks again. But I mean, overall this season he has ridiculously good numbers, and $4,700 price tag, not too bad for him in the desert. You mentioned San Francisco's team total 4.5. Definitely a good scenario for him tonight. And then as you're looking at other guys that I'm looking at JP Arencibia again. Should be in the lineup, you would imagine, against Detroit. And that another lefty. I mean, it seems like they're getting a lefty every single night. I believe it's 3 nights in a row now. So I'll keep going back to the well with him. I mean, he's got some power, and he's swinging the bat really well right now.
Yeah, speaking of power, I like Brian McCann in GPPs. He's at home. He's been very good against righties at Yankee Stadium in his brief Yankees tenure. Another New York catcher I like, Travis d'Arnaud. If Strasburg's not right, d'Arnaud is going to probably punish him for that, or punish whatever reliever comes in for Strasburg tonight. He's not hitting in the heart of the lineup. He's hitting a little bit lower than that, about 6. I believe he hit 6 yesterday against a righty, so might fly below the radar just a little bit at $4,400. I'll take whichever Rangers catcher is facing Vidal Nuno, as long as it's Chris Jimenez or Robinson Chirinos. If Bannister goes out and befuddles us and throws somebody else behind the plate, they are carrying 4 catchers right now, so it's tough to say who will get the nod back there. But if it's either Jimenez or Chirinos, I do like them as a sneaky play, as both guys have hammered lefties. And then my favorite bargain play of the night at catcher is Matt Wieters at $2,700. He's historically hit lefties better than righties as a switch hitter. And CC Sabathia, I mean, at this point, you know what he is. He's a pitcher that can get lefties out, but really struggles with right-handed batters, and he'll be facing Wieters as a righty tonight at Yankee Stadium. Yeah,
I'm all aboard that call. And then another guy that I'm looking to pick another bad pitcher, Chris Rusin. So I'm going with Derek Norris at $2,900 against him tonight. All right, looking at first base, there's a lot of options, so we'll try to highlight our top ones. Joe Kelly has pitched well, but Edwin Encarnacion been on fire. We saw Toronto struggle last night. He still put up 11 DraftKings points, so maybe their ownership is lower tonight. It probably shouldn't be, because Joe Kelly kind of pitching above his talent level right now. So I like him, but if I'm paying down a little bit, not as cheap as I'd like him to be, but $4,600 Eric Hosmer, it's really hard to get away from him. I mean, he only had 1 hit last night, but it came in the first inning, and it went ahead and got you 13 points real quick. And then you didn't need much else from him. So Eric Hosmer in this potent lineup against Mike Pelfrey, you can't miss any bats. Gotta imagine that he gets in on the action tonight.
Yeah, even teammate Kendrys Morales at the same price point looks pretty good at 46. I like David Ortiz against Drew Hutchison. Hutchison's been awful on the road this year. Fenway Park, awesome offensive venue. And David Ortiz, I mean, it feels like there's about a half dozen first basemen that have just been from another planet in the second half. Ortiz is one of those guys. He's just been absolutely hammering every offering from every pitcher seemingly lately. One interesting GPP play, I believe, is Jose Abreu. Tomlin has been good, but he does have a reverse platoon split. Interestingly enough, Jose Abreu also has a reverse platoon split for his very young career. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds there at U.S. Cellular Field. I do like Tomlin. I do believe what he's doing is semi-sustainable, but Abreu does look pretty good tonight. And then in the cheaper area, I'm looking at Carlos Santana for 39. I like all those left-handed Indians bats. In this case, switch hitting Santana, batting lefty against Samardzija, and Mark Trumbo against at 3,800. And then there's a sneaky play at first base, but I'm going to save him for his better position at second base, and we'll discuss a little bit more there.
Yep.
Any other names that you're looking at first base?
I'm looking at Adam Lind against Tom Kohler. Kohler, not awful against lefties, but certainly below average. And that's really the only other guy I'm throwing out there. One other guy, I prefer him at third base, though. If he is back in lineup, Pedro Alvarez, $3,300 against Kiwi Sampson, who's really struggled against lefties. Obviously, Great American Ballpark, and nice upgrade for him as well.
Certainly.
Second base, the guy that you mentioned, I mean, he's the top option if you ask me. I think you're in agreement. When you don't even factor in price, and then once you factor in price, he becomes an even better play. Logan Forsythe has ridiculously good numbers against lefties this year. Last I checked, it was over a 400 WOBA, over a 300 ISO. I mean, the guy's mashing lefties. Some people may have been let down by him the last few days. I am not looking at the last few days. Obviously, you got to take recency bias out of this one. This guy has crushed them all year long, and Kyle Lobstein is just not a good pitcher. So, for me, it's got to be him as your top option. If not, like you mentioned, picking on Jeff Samardzija with the lefties, leadoff hitter Jason Kipnis is in a pretty nice spot as well.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking to create a unique GPP lineup, you can go ahead and try Kipnis out at second and move Forsythe to first base. You're getting two really good second basemen, two guys who put up big numbers, and you're saving some money because, as we pointed out, those top names that we like at first base are all pretty pricey. Even the bargain plays, for the most part, are hovering around $4,000, and yet you got Logan Forsythe checking in at just $3,700, Kipnis $4,300. You're spending $8,000 between the two of them, so that allows you some serious wiggle room to get some more big bats on there, maybe get some of the top pitchers in your lineup. So I like those guys. Another name I'll throw in there at second base is Joe Panik. Again, I like that 4.5 run over/under total for the Giants. I love the fact that they're in the desert tonight against a mediocre at best pitcher in Zach Godley, who just a nugget that I'll throw out there because I found it fascinating. It's Zachary Godley, Zachary, yet it's abbreviated with a K on MLB.com. So I don't really know how that works, but
that's pretty weird.
Yeah, I kind of thought that I'd share that. Maybe somebody has an explanation for me. But the only other name that I'm looking at second base is Neil Walker against Kiva Sampson, $3,600. Great American Ballpark. The bandbox that it is great for all these left-handed bats, and being left-handed against Sampson has been pretty profitable this year, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple other cheap guys for you here. Scooter Gennett should be, I would assume, leading off once again against a righty, Tom Kohler there. And then you can look at these Philly second basemen. You've got probably the most upside with Odubel Herrera. Other guys, all kind of cash game plays for me. But, I mean, there's a lot of them. Darnell Sweeney, Cesar Hernandez. Take your pick there. I think Herrera, though, the highest upside, definitely those guys. Shortstop, or I'm sorry, not shortstop. Third base, almost skipped third base. Miguel Sano, you mentioned as a top option. It's hard for him not to be. Chris Medlin, you mentioned, has given up a ton of hard contact, and looks like 31.3% so far. So all Miguel Sano does is hit the ball hard. So if he's making contact against Medlin, which Medlin's not missing a ton of bats, so gotta like Sano as your top option. And then of course Alex Rodriguez, who's seemingly homering every single night now. Not doing a whole lot outside of that, but you don't care. You get a home run, and you're good to go at $4,600.
Yeah, you'll take your teens points for that home run from A-Rod every day of the week. In the same game, I like Manny Machado for $4,600. I'll take those right-handed Orioles bats against Sabathia, and I'll be very happy about that. And then the chalk play, you and I are in agreement. I think not only just price considered, but the guy does work against lefties. Evan Longoria gets Kyle Lopestein tonight. Just $4,000, easy to budget for. So I like him quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, I'm on board with you there. And then the cheap guy, Travis Shaw, continues to hit for power. He's under $3,000. I think he's a fine play as well. And, I keep looking at Todd Frazier against the lefty, but I just can't do it. He's just not been good, and Hap has been good. So probably won't even play him in a GPP.
Yeah, the only other name that I'm looking at in the bargain bin, and I know you'll fully support this, is another left-handed bat, who inexplicably has lost outfield eligibility. I don't understand it. It's kind of a bummer, but Lonnie Chisenhall, 2,900 against Shark at U.S. Cellular Field. Another bandbox ballpark that I'm going to be headed to tonight to get a lot of my hitters action.
Yeah, and I don't know how the defensive player of the month in the outfield doesn't get
right?
outfield eligibility. So a lot of disrespect for Lonnie, and I don't appreciate that. But next up, shortstop, Carlos Correa, of course, is going to be your top option. Well, I won't say, of course, some others might see Troy Tulowitzki as the top, but you and I are in agreement that Carlos Correa, if you're paying up, that's the guy you want. Tulo had a fine game last night, still not quite paying off his tag. I mean, 12 points, I guess, is fine for what you want, but you're paying for Tulowitzki because you want upside, and he really just hasn't shown much recently. Obviously, you got to imagine breakout game coming. He's been an elite hitter throughout his career, but for me, I'm in agreement with you. Correa's the guy I'm paying up for, and then if not there, then a guy that's really good against lefty, another Tampa Bay guy that hits lefties really well, an interesting GPP play, I think, is Tim Beckham at $2,700.
I'm in complete agreement on Beckham. Hammering lefties this year, big power against lefties this year.
Yep.
Not a lot of patience, but that's fine. You'll take that at his price tag, and not even hitting that low in the order. Typically hitting like sixth against lefties. So there is some RBI potential behind some of those heart of the order bats like Longoria and Forsythe just in front of him. So I do like Beckham quite a bit. Also, another left-handed batter, or in this case, a switch hitter batting lefty. I'll take $4,000 Francisco Lindor, fresh off of a day off against Jeff Samardzija, or mostly a day off. He did end up coming in and pinch hitting, but you get the idea. And then Jung-Ho Kang against Kiva Sampson. Sampson's been better against righties than lefties, but not much. And I'll take another one of these Pirates from that 4.5 run over-under total that they've got at Great American Bandbox, and go ahead and roll with him.
Yeah, especially a guy with that kind of power, so you got to like that. Outfield options, going to be interesting out here to see where everyone goes. You got hot hitter in Jose Bautista against Joe Kelly. Obviously, he's just been getting it done night in and night out. I mean, he's got an on-base percentage through the roof, hitting for a ton of power, so you got to like that. But you can imagine he's probably going to be a popular play, but I know that there's a guy that you like to swerve off him with tonight. So who's your swerve?
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting the same ballpark factors, and he's actually $100 more expensive, but Lorenzo Cain, the Royals just seem to punish everybody lately, and Mike Pelfrey, a well below average pitcher at this point, not missing any bats. Cain's got a nice power speed combination, and because he's not facing a lefty, I think he's even going to be lower owned than he has been recently at his big price tag. So I like Cain quite a bit. GPPs only because I don't think you need to spend that much in the outfield to get production tonight. I think you can spend down to some other guys. Also looking at Nelson Cruz if he's back in the lineup. He's knocking on the door of being back, so maybe tonight's the night. Martin Perez not missing a lot of bats. $5,000 for that kind of power against a lefty. He's just been crushing lefties this year. Love Michael Brantley. Same theme as it's been all show. Michael Brantley, the lefties of the Indians against Samardzija. Go ahead and grab him. Justin Upton's having a tough year against lefties, but he has a long enough track record against them that I'm willing to give him a pass. 4,400 is a pretty good price tag to get him against Chris Rusin. Rusin struggles in a big way with righties. One of my favorite plays of the night is $4,200 Alex Gordon against Mike Pelfrey. He slid into the 2-hole with Zobrist moving up to the leadoff spot. That Royals lineup, I don't know if Ned Yost has fallen asleep and somebody's taken over the reins, because it's looking a lot more optimal now with some of their high OBP guys up there and Alcides Escobar at the bottom of the lineup. So loving Gordon, loving the top part of that Royals order. And then a few bargain names today to look at. If Adam Jones is back in the lineup, $3,900 against CC Sabathia is a good price point. Cole Calhoun at $39 against a righty. Matt Latos looks pretty good. A reminder again, Mark Trumbo, just $38. He's having a really good second half.
Yeah.
Really hammers left-handed pitching, so I like him. And Gregory Polanco, one of the chalkier plays, I believe, tonight, but leading off for the Pirates, having a good second half, just $3,500, and another piece of Great American Ballpark and a big total. But there are a few other names that you're looking at, and there's no shortage of options in the outfield tonight. So who else do you have?
I'm looking at Justin Upton's teammate Matt Kemp at $4,600. I think he's in a great spot. Tournament play, Yoenis Cespedes, $4,800 against Strasburg. We mentioned Strasburg was good when he first came back from injury, but didn't make it through his last start and got crushed anyway. You and I, neither one convinced that he's completely healthy. And if he makes a mistake to these batters, Cespedes is definitely the most likely to take advantage. So I like that. One of my favorite plays, if he is back tonight, he was activated yesterday. Corey Dickerson against James Shields. The guy was the best hitter in all of baseball, not an exaggeration, against right-handed pitching last season. And Shields has had issues with the long ball. Dickerson looked great in his rehab. So at $2,800, he's going to be one of my favorite tournament plays if he really is back in that lineup there.
Yeah, and his teammate Cargo at $4,000 looks pretty good too. Gets that price reduction on the road, and all Cargo's done is hammer right-handed pitching wherever they played this year, and his second half has been something to behold, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to wrap things up for us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out all of our great content. Starting NFL content, of course, this week as well at dailyfantasycafe.com.